It had been an early start to the day. Katie discovered that if you spend too much time racing up and down the stairs shouting, "We're going to the cottage," it takes a little longer to get there. Orbie learned that even though he had his arm floats, he still needed his life jacket for the boat. And they both found out that two friends with suitcases can't fit through the door at the same time. The car was packed to the limit, and everybody was safely buckled in. Mom was singing "Old MacDonald," and Katie and Orbie were being the animals. Dad was driving and looking for road signs. Soon there was a big lake, and all the singing stopped. Dad smiled and asked if the lake was big enough for everybody. They all cheered. Then Dad saw the sign that said Marina. It pointed down a hill. Orbie could barely stay in his seat. Katie asked for the 10th time how long the boat ride was. You see, Katie and Orbie had never been in a boat before. Dad found a place to park, and they looked over at the dock. There was a lineup of boats waiting for someone to drive them. Orbie wondered if their boat was the great big one. Dad smiled and said that theirs was just a little boat. Orbie saw a tiny boat with oars in it and asked if that was it. Dad was tugging on the cooler and Mom was loading up her arms. "No," Dad said, "it's a little bigger than that." Orbie's suitcase bumped along the grass. He hunted for the right boat. Dad called to him. He told him that a dock can be a dangerous place and he needed to wear his life jacket when he was on it. Orbie wasn't going for a swim. He burbled his confusion. Dad explained that life jackets were for in cases. Mom buckled him in. Orbie was confused. What was an in case? Dad took Orbie right to the edge of the dock and pointed down. "It's very deep here. If you trip or slip, you might fall in." Orbie moved back. Dad held his hand. "With your life jacket on, you will float and be safe." Orbie smiled and gave it a good smack. It was thick and puffy. They headed off to the boat. Dad dumped the cooler down in front of it. "This is it," he said, "our mighty sea vessel." Katie and Orbie could not believe it. It was bright red with seats and a motor and a steering wheel and another seat right up at the front. It was fabulous. Mom and Dad loaded all the things onto the boat, while Katie and Orbie looked into the water. A big, fat sunfish looked back at them. Katie waved to it, and she was quite sure it waved right back. Mom thought that was extraordinary. Soon everybody was in the boat. Mom sat up front with Orbie, and Dad sat in the driver's seat with Katie as his co-pilot. When the motor started, all kinds of water bubbled up at the back. Katie wanted to rush back and look at it, but that's when she learned a very important lesson about boats. Dad told her that you never stand up in a boat like this. You always sit until it's tied up, and then you can move around. Katie was glad to know the rules. They floated out of the parking space, which Dad told them was called the boat slip. As they took off through the channel, Orbie trumpeted. He was very happy. Partway through the channel, there was a very funny-looking bird, a very big bird. Katie thought it looked like a stork. When the bird heard the motor, it flew away up over the top of the boat. Mom told them that it was called a great blue heron. As the boat traveled around a bend, a big house came into sight. It had a big arch in the middle of it that rose out of the water. Katie wondered how people walked in there if it had water for a floor. Then and there, Dad turned the boat. Water sprayed up on Orbie's side, and to everyone's surprise, they drove right into the house. This was the best garage Katie had ever been in. Mom told her it was called a boathouse. That's why it had water for a floor. Orbie tooted as the boat stopped. It echoed through the boathouse. It scared Orbie, but Dad smiled and said that this was his boathouse, and Orbie could toot in it whenever he wanted to. Mom asked everybody to help unload the boat, but I have to tell you that when she looked up to see them, everybody had disappeared. Katie and Orbie just couldn't wait to see what the cottage was like. When they came out of the boathouse, they saw it for the first time. It was incredible. It was an old building with a porch and a big garden and flowers and a big swing that hung from a tree. Katie and Orbie hugged each other in delight. They were about to run up to take a look when Dad stopped them. "These are the cottage rules," he said. "No one plays near the water without an adult, ever. The boathouse is for boats and not for little people. And other than that, the rule is that you positively have to have fun." With a cheer and a cartwheel, Orbie and Katie were off. They discovered a big fireplace, a bathroom with an old toilet, a big kitchen with all kinds of cupboards, and a bedroom with 2 bunk beds. It was their room, and Katie was delighted. Orbie thought he might prefer the closet. Mom and Dad had a bedroom, too. The bed was smaller than the one at home, but it looked like a good sleeping place. Outside, Orbie discovered the swimming area. There was a big rock just right for climbing on in the shallow water. Katie found a huge climbing tree with all kinds of low branches for short people. This was the best place ever. Suddenly, they all heard Mom calling from the boat. Dad remembered about helping, and all 3 of them ran across the lawn to Mom. In the boathouse, they saw a long, skinny boat that Dad said was a canoe. They saw a boat with foot pedals. That was a pedal boat. Well, as you can imagine, Katie and Orbie just wanted to try everything at once. Mom asked them to try helping with the unloading first, and then after that, they could have the whole week to enjoy the new cottage. Mom was always right, and so that is exactly what they did. Dad was happy that everybody liked the cottage. Mom thought they should all show him how happy they were, and they all hugged Dad. They loved that he had found a place so ready for adventures. And do you know, it really was. But then, those stories are for another day.
Did you know? Did you know? Did you know? Did you know? It can be day on only one side of the Earth at a time. But the Earth spins around. So that means when you're waking up in the morning, it's night on the other side. And someone else is getting ready for bed.